My dad wasn't just killed in a random act of violence. He was targeted. He was killed because he was a pillar of our society and our political system, something that his murderer hated. This is not just a personal tragedy, although of course it is my family who feel the pain the most, but it is also an entirely preventable murder and an attack on democracy itself. And yet this atrocious murder has been watered down and brushed under the carpet. If an elected member of parliament is not safe in our own community, then none of us are. Why do I share all this personal pain and agony with you? It's because it matters. It really matters. I want Sir Keir and Yvette Cooper to know exactly what the consequences are when the very government agencies that are set up to protect people like my dad and members of the public fail. Doing paper review after paper review, like what has happened since my father's murder, is simply not enough. We know that there were serious failings with both Essex Police and the Prevent programme. But what we don't know is why, who was responsible, and what is being done to ensure that another family never has to go through this pain. What happened to my father should never, ever have happened. And yet here we are. A man who spent his life trying to help others was killed in a brutal, cowardly attack. And we still do not have the answers that we need. His killer was known to the agencies, and yet he was let free to rip our lives apart. And now, to make matters even worse, the Home Secretary has written to us ahead of our meeting to let us know that we will not be getting the public inquiry that we have been demanding. She and the Prime Minister have refused to grant us the public inquiry. This decision is an absolute insult and a betrayal to my family and our father's memory. How can the government justify holding inquiries for other tragic events like Southport and Nottingham? Yet they refuse to investigate the very system that failed my father. Is his life worth less than the others? Does our family not deserve the answers that the other families so rightly deserve? We need to be sure that this never happens again. Yvette Cooper has strung us along for months, suggesting that she was working on ways to help us. However, all she has done is remove the possibility of us being included in the Southport inquiry. Instead, she had offered us another useless paper review done by a person of their choosing. This appears to be an attempt to placate me and to make me go away, but I do not accept that. Our time has been wasted and it has caused further pain and heartbreak by giving us a small glimmer of hope, only to crush it. The refusal to hold a public inquiry only adds to our suffering, and it makes us feel abandoned, ignored, and disposable. The government has a duty to protect citizens and those who serve the public. My father was failed in the worst way imaginable, and yet those responsible refuse to be held accountable. The actions of the government have left us in about £30,000 worth of debt, and this should never have been necessary. If they are hoping that my resources and that my grit will run out, it won't. And I will keep coming back time and time again until I get the justice that my father deserves. To Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, who we are meeting on Wednesday, I say this: do not let my father's murder be forgotten. Do not let his death be just another statistic. On Wednesday, when we meet with you, we will be asking you to reconsider this appalling decision. The reviews and the reports that have been written so far just do not hold water, and if anything, they raise more questions than answers. Please give us the public inquiry and the answers that we in the public need. Give us the justice that we deserve. You both claim to have been his friend. You were both at his funeral. Well, as his friend, his colleague, and as a human being, please do the right thing by him. I would like to conclude by making 2 final points. Firstly, given that my dad was who he was, we feel totally let down by the government who were in power at that time. They also claimed to be his friend. They were also at his funeral. But they were the ones who had the power at the time to launch an inquiry, and yet they chose not to. They walked away and abandoned us as a family. It cannot be right that we had to rely on the sheer luck of bumping into Rad and him volunteering to help us get justice for my dad. It cannot be right that those who are responsible for public safety are shying away, and we literally have to rely on the help of a Good Samaritan. Perhaps my father's so-called friends would like to visit his grave. Perhaps they would like to think about ways that they can be more like him. Perhaps they might fight for the truth and help us get justice. This is not a political game where you get to brush things under the carpet and sweep things under the rug in order to negate your wrongdoings and to make yourself look less negligible. This is someone's life we are talking about. I can see what you are doing and you will not pull the wool over my eyes. This is clearly something that we do not know in my father's case. Neither government want to touch this with a barge pole. What is it that they do not want us to know? There is a wall of silence. If they care so little for a friend and politician, how little do they care for us, the public? Secondly, we had asked the Prime Minister to allow us to have media in our meeting on Wednesday. We know that this is something that he allowed the Nottingham families to do when they went to meet with him. He has refused to allow us even to do that. It is now clear that he used the Nottingham case to make himself look good because he wanted the media there to record him announcing an inquiry. He knows that he will be letting us down on Wednesday, so he does not want you there to hear that. But he has to be consistent. He can't pick and choose. Are the Nottingham families and the Southport families more important than ours? I am now calling for him to reconsider that decision and to allow you, the media, to come with us so you can see and hear what he is saying and hold him accountable. I have lost the most important man in my life. My family has been broken beyond repair. But if my father's death can lead to real change, if it can save at least one other family from having to go through this, then at least we know that his sacrifice was not for nothing and his death will not have been in vain. My father gave everything to the city of Southend and to this country. And now it is time for this country to honour him with the full truth of this entirely preventable death. Finally, I would like to thank the public and you, the media, because it is only because of you that I am now being able to get my story out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.